And the thing is, over the years, I have opted out of doing these gear junior because of it's just performance.
And I perform, innovate, and then also they expect you to do the work and they'll compensate you.
Right. I own your company that coaches on rare disease. And lots of times, the patients who enroll are not Black people of the health peer.
Right.
And, they said, well, those patients are really impacted. You don't know because you don't go out kissing. So a lot of what I've been doing the last couple of years is, talking to them about, the importance of diversity and social research. And then, Juneteenth, I get real cute to talk about slavery. And then, but this year, I'm actually going to be leading this session about your book. Now.
Yes, and I'm so excited because I loved how the book has ended up in different environments. And thank you, because it's really us that we bring the book to these organizations. So I appreciate you so much. And if there are any other folks that want to connect with you, right? You're here, right? Yes. Thank you. Okay, yes. Okay.
Hi, Dr. Blackstock. My name is Savannah Samuel. And so I got to read your book and I really enjoyed it. And I think one thing that I wanted to acknowledge was your bravery in being able to speak out against the large entities that you work within. Yeah. And so my question with that is, how were you able to navigate speaking out about these entities without fear of retaliation?
Okay. I was scared. I was very, very scared. I don't know if people remember, but some people here may know I wrote a piece in an op-ed actually right after I left, why Black faculty leave academic medicine. It was in STAG and it was for the Boston Globe. And actually I wrote it like 8 months before I left, but I didn't want it published until I had actually left. Right. But I also feel like, I had asked the editor, like, is there anything in here that can they sue me? Right. And he's like, no. But when I wrote the book, though, those publishers have legal review it. Yeah. Right. And so legal reviewed it. And there were maybe like 1 or 2 things I had to change. Very, very, very minor. But you recognize that, I think for me, because I had privilege in leaving, because I had other options, that I felt like it really was incumbent on me to speak up. Because there were many other people of my peers, our medical students, other trainees who could not speak up. And so I really had the privilege to do so. And I also noticed the more that I spoke up, the more that I got support. So there were more people behind me. You find that as well. But I'm not saying I think, everyone should, medical students should start speaking up. And obviously we want that would be ideal. That's aspirational. That should be the reality. But, there are folks like me who I could use my platform. That's what I use my platform for.
Thank you.
Other questions? Can you pass to Michael?
Hi. Can I on more camera? Hi. My name is Chika G. Wanabu. I'm from Oklahoma City. And before I ask my question, I just want to say thank you. In your book, there's a part you talked about permission and, sorry, I don't get emotional, but I call it the will. But, I just want to thank you because no one's really ever told me that it's okay to take the unconventional route for things. And I am just really appreciative that you've done that. And, it's just allowed me to just take more breaks in life. So right now, and it didn't matter, but more breaks and, just to be more of myself. And it's just really easy to succumb to people's expectations of what they have for you and the expectations that I have for myself. And I just wear those lines. And my question for you, if you could look or talk to your 26-year-old self, how would you tangibly tell yourself to separate those expectations?
So a few things. One, I want to say that a lot of the decisions I made, and I said this already, I was scared. But what I recognize is being brave doesn't mean that you're not scared. It still means that you have to make these tough decisions, right? The other thing is I had a lot of guilt actually leaving NYU, mostly because of the medical students. Because I felt like, oh my goodness, like, I was a mentor to them. But then what I recognized is they looked at me and saw, oh, Dr. Blackstock is doing something else. Like, this is another way that she is mentoring us. She's showing us that there's a different way of doing things. So I feel like that gave me some peace. Okay, and then the last thing you asked me was last thing.
If you can talk to your 26-year-old self, what are tangible ways you would be like, basically, your expectations, like what my mom has for me isn't the same.
It's
what I have for myself.
What should I say? She always has the answer. Like, this is what I will say is that if I could do it again, I would just make sure that I wasn't necessarily just checking off boxes and living life passively. I think I would ask myself, like, what gives you purpose? What gives you joy? Making sure that and I talked about alignment already, making sure that you're already in alignment, right? But that's not something, I think I was just like on this trajectory. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to be a doctor, but I'm going to do residency, then go to fellowship. And then, but what about everything else? What about like the rest of life, right? And so, but I think it's hard. With family, it's hard. With family, it's hard, especially, immigrant family. My father's from Jamaica,
Both my parents are Nigerian, so.
But yeah, it's so hard. And the other thing is, sometimes when you want to get advice, you go to people who have been brave in their own lives. And not to say that your parents haven't been brave. They've been brave in their own ways. But sometimes they don't have the imagination to think bigger, like the way that you want to think bigger. And it's not a knock on them at all.
Thank you. Oh, how many more questions? Just to me.
Okay, so I'll be squeezed off. Oh, it's all? You heard it all? Testing. So I was going to speak to the guilt that professionals have, particularly when we are the only ones in academia and our students. There's loads of research about how our service goes beyond the portfolio because the students will sit in our office and cry and pray. And then we go home and then we cry and we pray. And when we leave those places, we're kind of burdened with failing an entire system. So I'm glad to hear what you said, that our students are still watching and they're learning new tools because we have adapted. Yes. But my ultimate question, well, now that I don't have that question, so thank you. I wanted to give kudos because I loved watching the non-traditional reader. So we support because we know what's in this book. We feel it, we resonate. But when you see Karen and how they respond on your pages about how their entire lives have been transformed by this text and how they're endeavoring to do more. I'm just proud. And so I want to give you a round of applause for your transparency. Your realness in there. Oftentimes, as Black women, we wear this cloak. We try to save the world. And especially when you're healthcare and you go to seek opinions and you become the patient, and oftentimes we forget, the clinical rationale. We can't think because we're there. And you shared that. And not many people will say, I just didn't know, like the doula story.
Right.
I was so proud of you. You didn't even know what a doula was. And people wouldn't talk about that. So again, thank you. And kudos.
And I just want to echo something that you said, that another thing, I may not say it explicitly in the book, but I feel strongly that we cannot always be the martyrs. Right. Because we have to take care of ourselves first, right? In order to continue doing the work for our community. So we have to tap in and then tap out. You know, tap in, tap out. I feel like, okay, I need a break. Right. Yes, because we want to be doing this work for the long run. We want it to be sustainable. We cannot exhaust ourselves. It cannot.